Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Ben Lister podcast radio show here on Hull Kingston Radio 107.4 FM. We have had a lot of guests in my previous editions. Today we have a big guest we are chatting about. My favourite musician, male musician, that is. We already know my favourite female musician is, but my favourite male musician, Prince. But I unfortunately don't have the man himself. So instead, I've got a lady who is a friend of mine and who knew Prince really well and met him on a few occasions. So please give it a Hull Kingston Radio special welcome to the one, the only, Hayley Drinkall. Hello, Hayley. Welcome along.
Hi, Ben.
How are you today?
I'm great, thanks. Bit warm, but yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Busy, but that's expected in the world at the moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's good. 6 questions about today about the icon and your good friend Prince, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Excellent. You ready to rumble in the jungle?
Yep, let's do it.
Let's go for it then. Question 1.
Yep. Okay.
Where did you first meet Prince? And had you heard of him in his early career before you met him?
Well, we met after a concert in 1998. It's a long story. I'll try and shorten it a little bit, but it was my birthday, or just about, and I'd gone down to see him, and I was on my own because at the time I didn't really know anyone that liked him enough to go see him live, which, you know, you've got to go see Prince live. And I got followed by somebody, turned into a bit of a drama, to cut a long story short, and I hid around the side of Wembley Arena as Prince was coming out. Well, his security came out, I didn't actually see him, and I explained the predicament that I was in, and they didn't believe me, and as I explained it, the guy who was following me all over the arena all night came around the corner, and, you know, I was kind of like, what do I do? What do I do? And security was like, so you're not kidding? So do I look like I'm kidding, really? And before I knew it, Prince was behind me, just said, why don't you just get in that car? And I'm like, okay. And we ended up at the Hippodrome. It's a very condensed version of it for time purposes, but that is basically how we met. And to answer your other question, I had heard of him, but not like lots and lots before I met him. I mean, Purple Rain had hit by then, you know, a few years before. But yeah, up until 98, I mean, by 98, I was a big fan, you know. But when I first started listening to him, I didn't hear a lot of him in the UK. I just picked up little bits and I liked what I heard, but didn't necessarily connect that every song was him, because every song, an album, is so different. So that answers your question.
Yeah, and I also noticed a friend of mine told me this, when he came to events, when he came to one event at the Virgin Megastore down in London, that he wore a mask when he came down to events.
Yeah, he did. That would have probably been when he was disputing with his record company, and he didn't want his face shown, so he used to wear a scarf over his face and call himself Tora Tora. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the time when he was releasing new music as well.
Yeah.
Question 2 now. Who
okay.
his early influences and inspirations in his career when he was starting out?
I would probably say, I know it's very well documented that he went to a James Brown concert, and that was an eye-opener for him. I would also say Parliament Funk, Funkadelic, Sly and the Family Stone, lots and lots of different people. I mean, you know, he was a big Barbra Streisand fan. Not many people know that. So he got a lot of influences, but his main ones growing up were Sly, Family Stone, Parliament Funk, bands like that, James Brown. Prince was very old school. So he liked his old school funk too.
Brilliant. Yeah, and I also remember a few songs from him. 1999, which I got confused with a Phil Collins song, so apologies for that error.
Yeah. But yeah, and I mean, of course, later on in his career, he got to work with a lot of people that he grew up, admiring and getting influence from. Santana, that's another one.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And he was an icon. And he still is.
Yep.
He still is. He's still got a cult following nowadays, even though he's unfortunately not able to be in this interview room today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
but yeah. Question 3. What was his favorite part about being a musician?
I'd probably say all of it, because he didn't really think like in them terms. It's people, that's my job. He was music, every kind of music, and it just never stopped with him. He never stopped, and I don't really think he ever thought of it like that. He just created all the time.
And what was his last ever hit before? Inevitably, we already know what happened. His last ever hit, do you know? Or the last ever time you saw him before?
Well, I spoke to him a lot, via the internet, things like that, because he lived in Minneapolis and out in Chanhassen. The last time I actually physically saw him was 2014. So, and that was down in London.
Yeah.
So, but hit-wise, it's hard to say with him, because over here, he was so, I would say, to be honest, underrated, Ben.
Yeah.
Very much so. He was very underrated. And when he released music, he didn't release it to hit the charts at all. That had no interest for him at all. And the way he used to distribute his music was different to what a lot of the artists do now, So his music wouldn't get the big advertising and promotion backed by a big record company like, say, someone else, like Taylor Swift or, people like that, Ed Sheeran. He just didn't operate like that at all.
Yeah, and that's it for part 1. Join us again in part 2 for the Hayley Drinkall All Prince special in a bit. But now, back to the studio.